"Please excuse me, but has anyone ever told you that you look exactly like that Mr. Bean?" I replied, "Well, I'm the actor who plays Mr. Bean. Meet Mr. Bean, a funny and strange figure who loves how silly everyday things can be. With a childish sense of wonder and a sly grin, he gets around in the world in a way that is both innocent and sneaky. His physical antics and silent comedy have captivated people all over the world, making him an international sensation. But there is a greater story behind the laughter, one that looks into the complexities and outcomes of life, showing the sadness behind Mr. Bean's journey's laughter. Let's look at his trip and find out where this legendary character came from and how many adventures he had along the way." Origin: the character Mr. Bean, who is known for not saying much and doing funny things, was created by Rowan Atkinson while he was at Queen's College, Oxford. As Atkinson worked toward his master's degree in electrical engineering, he was also focused on creating the character that would become one of the most famous in comedy. Atkinson started out as a comedian by putting on shows at the Oxford Review. But the idea for Mr. Bean's unique personality came to him while he was alone in front of a mirror. Here, Atkinson looked at different face expressions and found humor in everyday things. This simple test proved to be the basis for Mr. Bean, a character with little speech but lots of facial expressions. Atkinson played a similar character named Robert Box in the one-off ITV series Canned Laughter in 1979. Routines from this character were later used in the 1997 movie. The name of the character wasn't decided until after the first episode was shot. Before that, names based on vegetables, like Mr. Cauliflower, were being thought about. Atkinson said that this character was informed by Monsieur Hulot, a character created by the French comedian Jacques Tati. He also talked about the influence of Peter Sellers, who had played similar stupid characters like Rundy Bakshi in The Party, 1968, and Captain Clouseau in the Pink Panther movies. In Atkinson's opinion, these artists were very good at making people laugh just by moving their bodies, without using words. This respect drove him to make a character who relied on visual humor, awkward situations, and clever solutions to easy problems. Mr. Bean was made to show a childlike innocence stuck inside the body of an adult, using a mix of innocence and mischief to get through life. He used a style of humor that reminded me of silent movies. His antics relied heavily on physical comedy and expressive facial gestures, which made it easy for people to talk to each other without words. This method not only got across language hurdles, making Mr. Bean relatable to everyone, but it also let the series be sold all over the world without having to make many changes to the dialogue, as Mr. Bean changed over time. His character became a vehicle for a type of comedy that is almost extinct today. He brought back the quiet, emotional style of early 20th century humor and made it fit into the late 20th and early 21st centuries so that new audiences could enjoy it. He turned everyday jobs into hilarious adventures, making viewers feel both uncomfortable and laugh. Mr. Bean's impact goes beyond his screen appearance and can be seen in many areas of comedy and entertainment. He is a main topic of discussion in comedy classes and film studies because he can get across complex comedic ideas with little to no words, shown how powerful silent communication can be in telling a story. As we learn more about Mr. Bean's life, it becomes clear that his mix of innocence and chaos has not only made people laugh, but it has also changed the rules of comedy. What made Mr. Bean go from being a college sketch character to a famous international TV star whose unique brand of humor makes millions of people laugh? Rowan Atkinson acted in a one-time pilot called Canned Laughter for London Weekend Television in 1979 after he graduated from college. When he sang at the third Secret Policeman's Ball in June 1979, which was shown on TV by the BBC, his fame went through the roof. Following that, he was in TV sketches with a wide range of artists such as Elton John, John Cleese, and Kate Bush. Rowan Atkinson's first role was on Not the 9 O'Clock News, a BBC show that his friend John Lloyd oversaw. Atkinson worked with a lot of sketch artists on the show, which helped him get the lead part of Edmund Blackadder in Blackadder, the BBC's satirical historical comedy. Set in the Middle Ages, the main character, who was shown to be stupid and innocent, struck a chord with viewers. In a 2001 Channel 4 poll of the 100 greatest TV characters, Edmund Blackadder came in third, behind only Homer Simpson from The Simpsons and Basil Fawlty from Fawlty Towers. This shows how important his role was. In 1990, when Mr. Bean first came out on TV, it was a very different experience to watch. With its unique mix of fun and simplicity, the show quickly won over fans all over the world. Mr. Bean's 15 shows, which aired from 1990 to 1995, were a stunning display of visual comedy that showed that laughter can be shared and enjoyed by everyone, regardless of language. In the first episode of the series, called Mr. Bean, our main character went about his day, which included taking a math test, relaxing, and going to church. This first episode set the tone for the whole series by showing how Mr. Bean solves everyday problems in clever but silly ways. Bean's funny attempt to steal from a neighboring student during his unprepared test is one that stands out. It led to a hilariously awkward situation. In the famous episode The Trouble with Mr. Bean, the main character drives his British Leyland Mini through his morning routine. This episode not only shows how good he is at turning a normal drive into a comedy extravaganza, but it also has the unforgettable scene with the dentist where Bean numbs his own leg by accident while trying to give the dentist anesthesia. On a different note, Mr. Bean in Room 426 is a memorable episode where Bean goes on a hilarious adventure while staying at a hotel. As Mr. Bean tries to sneak a sandwich into his room and causes chaos at the seafood buffet. This show is full of laughs. Atkinson is a master of physical comedy. Thoughts on the Baby Mr. Bean is another unique Bean story, where he ends up taking care of a baby at a fair without meaning to. His unusual ways of babysitting, like keeping the baby entertained with a balloon, make people laugh all the time while quietly highlighting how cutely clueless he is. In its last episode, The Best Bits of Mr. Bean, the TV show paid respect to Mr. Bean by revisiting beloved scenes that made him so popular with fans all over the world. People were able to remember good times with Mr. Bean and confirm his position as a cultural icon. The comedic genius of each Mr. Bean movie was unique, and they all left an indelible mark on the world of TV comedy, showing that a well-done visual gag can be just as powerful as spoken conversation. Animated characters and repeated themes. Rowan Atkinson plays the main character and protagonist, who acts like a childish fool and often approaches normal chores with strange plans and methods. He lives alone in Flat 2, 12 Arbor Road, Highbury, and wears his unique tweed jacket and narrow red tie almost all the time. He also wears a smart calculator watch most of the time. When it does, it's usually just a few mumbled words spoken in a funny low voice. In the first movie version, his ID only shows Mr. as his first name. It doesn't say what his given name is or what he does for a living. He goes by the name Bean around other people and is shown to work as a guard at the National Gallery in London. A lot of the time, Mr. Bean doesn't seem to understand simple things about how the world works. His efforts at what most people would consider simple things, like going swimming, using a TV, decorating his home, or going to church, are often shown on the show. The humor mostly comes from his unique and often silly ways of handling problems, the fact that he doesn't care about anyone else when he does them, and his pettiness and sometimes evil behavior. Along with the Southwark Cathedral Choir singing Behold the Man Who Is a Bean in 1990, Mr. Bean comes down from the sky in a beam of light in the opening scene of Episode 2. The first scene of Episodes 2 and 3 was in black and white at first, which was meant to show that he was just a normal guy who was thrust into the spotlight. Later shows, on the other hand, showed Mr. Bean coming down from the sky at night in a London street that was empty and had St. Paul's Cathedral in the background. In the background shots at the end of Episodes 3 and 6, he is also shown being pulled back up into the sky. There was a black scene in Episode 3 and a street scene in Episode 6. In reference to the beginning credits, Atkinson has said that Bean seems a little strange. In the cartoon show Mr. Bean's episode Double Trouble, his alien side is used in a plot where he is taken inside a spaceship with aliens that look like him and even have their own plush toys. At the very end, the aliens send him back home in a beam of light and music that sounds a lot like the beginning of the first Mr. Bean show. It's still not clear if Bean is an alien or not. Irma Gobb Matilda Ziegler plays Irma Gobb, Mr. Bean's longtime girlfriend in 3 episodes. She is only known as the girlfriend in The Curse of Mr. Bean and Mr. Bean Goes to Town. She seems to be more of a friend and companion to Bean than a love interest, so Bean treats her without much thought. But in Mr. Bean Goes to Town, he gets jealous when she moves with another man at a disco, and in Merry Christmas, Mr. Bean, she waits for him to propose on Christmas Day. She ends up leaving him for good because he didn't do that. Still, she shows up again in the cartoon series Mr. Bean. The book Mr. Bean's Diary tells us that her name is Irma Gobb, and that she works at the neighborhood library as a librarian. As a comic relief, the sketch Torville and Bean features Bean with a female friend played by Sophie Thompson who looks a lot like Gobb. Teddy Teddy is Mr. Bean's loyal friend. He is a strangely knitted bear with button eyes and sausage-shaped parts that get broken or jumbled all the time. Even though Teddy isn't living, Mr. Bean treats it like it is by including it in all of his daily activities and sometimes even hypnotizing it so that its head falls down like it's asleep. Teddy often gets caught up in Mr. Bean's adventures and acts as both and a homemade tool when needed. Teddy has been through a lot of bad luck with Mr. Bean, like having his head cut off, being used as a paintbrush, and shrinking in the washer by mistake. In the London play Hair by Mr. Bean, Teddy even plays Mr. Bean's pet and helps him win a pet show. The Mini Mr. Bean drove, a Citroen Green 1977 British Leyland Mini 1000 Mark IV with a matte black bonnet, was was an important part of many of the episode's pranks. Bean got dressed in it, drove while sitting in an armchair strapped to the roof, and tried to avoid paying a parking fee by leaving through the door. In the pilot episode, Bean's car was an orange 1969 BMC Morris Mini 1000 Mark II with the license plate number RNT996H. However, it was destroyed in a crash that didn't happen on screen. Bean locks his car with a bolt latch and key instead of the car's built-in lock, which is funny throughout the show. This strange security measure turned into a running joke. In 2 episodes, Bean also stops a possible car thief by taking off the steering wheel instead of the key. In the movie Back to School, Mr. Bean, his Mini is hit by a tank after he swaps it with his own to get a parking spot. He then takes his padlock and bolt latch from the ruins. The Mini magically comes back in later episodes with the same colors and registration number SLW287R, even though it was crushed. Characteristics of Mr. Bean is usually portrayed as a silly, clumsy figure who acts in a rude, unpredictable, and self-centered way. Even though he sometimes acts like a gentleman around women, he doesn't care about his girlfriend, which is clear from many shows, both live action and animated. Mr. Bean often imagines that his teddy bear is living, even though he isn't always nice to Teddy. He usually avoids affection, especially kisses from Irma, and will often smudge his cheek in return. Even with these flaws, Mr. Bean is still the main figure and protagonist of the comedy series with the same name. He is slow-witted but sometimes clever, and he has a selfish but charming personality. All of these traits make him a likable but strange person who does everyday things in strange ways. Not only is Mr. Bean known for being immature, self-centered, and competitive, but he is also known for being funny, witty, and creative. Even though he doesn't say much and speaks in a funny, low-pitched voice, he shows moments of warmth, humanity, and compassion, giving the impression of a complex personality, global effect, and popularity. Mr. Bean's humor isn't just popular in Britain, it's also popular in homes all over the world. After its premiere in the UK, the show quickly crossed cultural and linguistic barriers to captivate fans all over the world. The way Mr. Bean makes people laugh is beyond language. He uses movements instead of words, so everyone can understand. The show was shown all over the world in more than 245 different countries. Visual comedy is a big part of why it's so popular around the world. Unlike most sitcoms, Mr. Bean puts more emphasis on face expressions and body language than on verbal jokes. This way of doing things makes it easier for people who don't speak English well or at all to understand. Because of this, Mr. Bean doesn't have many of the language problems that other shows do. There's no doubt that Mr. Bean has had a big impact on society around the world, as shown by the fact that his influence can be seen in many forms of media and in entertainment around the world. The series has won many awards, including the prestigious Golden Rose of Montreux, which shows how important it is. Rowan Atkinson's portrayal of the likable but helpless character has not only won him a lot of praise, but it has also solidified his status as a comedy legend. The character's huge success has led to a lot of adaptations and merchandise from animated shows to comic books, showing that his appeal will last across many mediums. Mr. Bean has also been in a lot of commercials and promotional materials, which has made him even more of a part of common culture. Interestingly, Mr. Bean's popularity goes beyond TV, strengthening his position as a beloved figure in many social and cultural areas. He is often brought up in discussions about comedic paradigms, and his unique look is often used in memes and on many social media sites, which shows how important he is still today. People love Mr. Bean for his strange personality and funny antics. Scholars often study his humor and strange personality in great detail, showing how much he has affected both entertainment and culture analysis. The character has been praised at events around the world, like when he showed up at the opening ceremony of the 2012 London Olympics. Mr. Bean's appearance not only made people around the world happy, but it also showed how respected he is in the entertainment business. This event showed how well he could connect with a wide range of people, proving that Mr. Bean's humor is still as relevant and loved as ever. Award. The first episode was praised and won the Golden Rose and 2 other important awards at the Rose d'Or Light Entertainment Festival in Montreux in 1991. 2 BAFTAs were nominated for the Curse of Mr. Bean episode in the UK in 1991 for Best Light Entertainment Program and Best Comedy Program or Series. Atkinson was also nominated 3 times for Best Light Entertainment Performance between 1991 and 1994 for transition to film and animation. After being a big hit on TV, Mr. Bean made a big jump to movies and cartoons, showing that his charm went beyond short TV shows and increasing his impact. This change showed how flexible and popular the character was across a variety of mediums, bringing his unique brand of humor to even more people. Bean, which was also known as Bean the Ultimate Disaster Movie, was the first full-length movie. It came out in theaters in 1997. In this movie, Mr. Bean was taken away from his normal surroundings and put in Los Angeles, where he is wrongly thought to be an art expert in charge of moving the famous painting Whistler's mother to a Southern California gallery. Because Mr. Bean does strange things, a lot of bad things happen that are also funny. The movie did very well at the box office, even though reviewers gave it mixed reviews, earning over $250 million at the box office around the world and solidifying Mr. Bean's status as a global hero. In 2007, the second movie in the series came out. It was called Mr. Bean's Holiday, and it followed Mr. Bean on a rough trip across France to get to the Cannes Film Festival. Staying true to his usual style, his vacation turned into a comedy adventure full of mishaps, such as accidentally separating a young boy from his father and stealing the show at a famous film festival. Getting back to the character's basic traits of little speech and lots of physical comedy, capturing what made the original series so popular around the world. Along with his adventures on the big screen, Mr. Bean also tried his hand at cartoons. When the animated version of Mr. Bean came out in 2002, it let the character do moves and tricks that weren't possible in the live-action version. The animated series was funny, like Mr. Bean himself, with over-the-top adventures and little speech. It was a hit with both new fans and adults who missed the old shows. The show has kept going with new episodes because it got good reviews, which is another sign of how appealing the character is. Adding movies and animation to Mr. Bean's repertoire has not only kept him relevant in the entertainment world, but also won over a new group of fans. His ability to make people laugh and cry with little speech continues to connect with people all over the world. Mr. Bean stays a beloved cultural icon by using both traditional and digital media to share his funny antics and endearing mistakes with fans. This constant adaptation across different media platforms shows how charming he is and makes sure that people of all ages, countries, and languages will love Mr. Bean. Mr. Bean in the present day. As the 2000s went on, Mr. Bean's fame stayed strong, growing and changing as it found new ways to appeal to people all over the world. His appearance at the opening ceremony of the 2012 London Olympics, which millions of people around the world watched, was a great example of how charming he was. Showing how funny he is, Mr. Bean made an unforgettable impression with a wonderful show during the orchestra's performance of Chariots of Fire. His silly piano play on a single key and the resulting imaginative beach dash not only captured his famous sense of humor, but also won back the hearts of fans around the world. For years, Mr. Bean has kept busy in a lot of different ways besides his famous roles. With his appearance in so many ads, from credit card commercials to public service messages, it's clear that his appeal works to get people's attention. Additionally, the ongoing reruns of the original series and films, along with the addition of new episodes to the animated series, guarantee that he will continue to be relevant in a media landscape that is always changing. His adaptability and perpetual humor always hit a nerve, showing that the character can change with the times and stay relevant in the cultural world. What is the lasting effect of Mr. Bean's unique brand of comedy? And how has he been able to delight audiences of all ages with his timeless humor? Atkinson's skill at physical comedy and his ability to create characters that people can relate to are two main reasons for this. Additionally, the show was in line with a certain style of British humor that was popular both in the UK and around the world. British comedy is known for its dry wit, irony, and satire. It often makes social comments to make funny things that are both thought-provoking and hilarious. Atkinson is famous all over the world for his mastery of physical comedy and his ability to create figures that people will remember and relate to. Aside from his famous role as Mr. Bean, Atkinson has had a long and successful career as a comedian with standout roles in Blackadder and The Thin Blue Line. These shows have the sharp wit and cleverness that are typical of British humor, a lot like Mr. Bean. The series' long-lasting popularity shows how funny Atkinson is and how good he is at making characters that people love. Along with other British comics, Atkinson has helped create a unique and daring style of humor that continues to amaze people all over the world. Is it possible to separate Rowan Atkinson's famous performance as Mr. Bean from the real person, or will they always be linked, behind the person? For decades, the figure Mr. Bean has amazed people with what can only be called comedic genius. The famous character has become so well known that it can be hard to tell the difference between Rowan Atkinson and the character he plays. Atkinson is an actor who has a college degree in electrical engineering and plays Bean. He is quiet and often funny, but he is actually very smart. He followed in the footsteps of his father, who also finished from the same school with a Master's of Science in the same field at Queen's College, Oxford in 1975. He was given the title of Honorary Fellow in 2006. Even though Atkinson is great at playing the parts he plays, he faced a huge problem in his personal life that had a big impact on it. Atkinson struggles with a stutter, which leads him to use a method called over-articulation. He makes his stuttering problem funny by overstating the letter B, as shown in his performance of the name Bob in the Bells episode of Blackadder 2. Apparently, this problem made it hard for him to talk to his friends while he was in school, which made him tired and stressed. He said that acting helped his stuttering, saying ... It comes and goes. I noticed that when I play a character other than myself, the stuttering goes away. This may have been one of the reasons I chose the career path I did. The way Rowan Atkinson played the famous character Mr. Bean has left a lasting mark on the comedy world, captivating viewers with his comedic genius. It's hard to tell the difference between Atkinson as a person and the character he plays because his intelligence and talent fit so well into the part. Even though Atkinson has had problems, like a stammer, he has dealt with them by being strong and creative, and he has used his own problems to make funny stories. The fact that he found comfort and freedom in acting shows how performance can change people. It affected his career path and choice to become an actor. Call the curtain. Rowan Atkinson has always been perfect at pulling off Mr. Bean's silly facial movements and clean, kid-friendly slapstick. That being said, the 65-year-old actor recently said in an interview that playing the famous role has been anything but happy and fun. In fact, the opposite is true. In an in-depth interview with the UK's Radio Times, the British actor talked openly about the responsibility he feels in playing the beloved character. The character's popularity has grown beyond the original TV show from the 1990s to include a global franchise of spin-offs, movies, and books. As reported by Variety, Atkinson said of his part as Mr. Bean, I don't get much pleasure from playing him. The responsibility is pretty unpleasant. I find it hard and tiring, and I'm looking forward to the end. Atkinson said that he is tired of physically playing the awkward, inarticulate Englishman, but he made it clear that he isn't tired of providing his voice, which is a task that takes very little work. The character's rare and unclear speech is a big part of what makes him interesting. This is why the show and its later versions were able to reach people all over the world without having to do awkward dubbing or make changes for different cultural settings. Continued to be popular, Mr. Bean is more than just a figure. He represents an important time in the history of theater. He had an effect that went beyond the screen and changed how physical entertainment is thought of and done. Mr. Bean is brilliant because he can connect with everyone. Even though he doesn't say much, his body language and facial reactions are enough to make people laugh. This long-lasting method solidifies his place among the great comedians, leaving an indelible mark on both audiences and aspiring comics who want to capture the magic of nonverbal humor. Over time, Mr. Bean has become a worldwide culture icon that everyone knows. His funny, over-the-top facial expressions have become online memes that are shared and liked in a wide range of places and by people of all ages and languages. This part of digital growth has helped keep Mr. Bean relevant in a culture that is changing quickly and where the popularity of many characters goes up and down. The Mr. Bean brand looks like it will do well in the future. Rowan Atkinson has given hints that he might be moving away from the character, but the brand is still changing. New businesses are about to start up, like animated adventures and maybe even material made by AI. In the digital age, Mr. Bean's character can go on a lot of different adventures and connect with people in new ways on interactive websites and virtual reality experiences. Fans can still interact with their favorite funny character in new ways. Also, people's continued interest in Mr. Bean's old shows, whether they watch them on online services, buy DVDs, or watch them on TV, shows that people are still hungry for content that goes beyond typical comedic structures. As families read Mr. Bean to new generations, his fan base slowly grows, making sure that his adventures will be loved for many years to come. Because the character is so well liked and new ideas are always being explored, it's clear that Mr. Bean will continue to entertain and inspire people, proving that well-written humor is always appealing. As our look into Mr. Bean's life and impact comes to a close, we come across a figure who has not only made people laugh for a long time, but has also made a unique place in the history of entertainment. His ability to make people laugh without using speech shows how powerful simple stories can be. The story of how Mr. Bean went from being an odd sketch to a worldwide hit is a great example of how laughter can communicate across borders. His method, which is silent but expressive, supports the idea that real comedy goes beyond words. Thanks for seeing. Don't forget to tell us what you think about this video in the following part.